Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you? Good
I'm
to
good.
see you.
Thanks for joining.
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Okay.
Good to see everybody.
I know it is.
Good evening. Zoom says my microphone isn't working.
It's working.
Awesome. Thank you.
We've got 2 minutes left. One minute left. We're on countdown. Okay, Dr. DeBlue, Mr. White, you want to turn your cameras on?
Just a
There.
second.
Sure.
I get done walking around my house, setting up, getting the girls situated.
No problem.
How was your day?
Hello, everyone.
Oh,
There you go. Carrie, do you want to take roll call?
Yeah, absolutely. Martin Cazada,
Here.
Jose Arenas,
Here.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Here.
Jet White.
Here.
Susan Zarin.
Here.
There being 5 members, there is a quorum.
I'll call the regular meeting of the Pendergast Elementary School Board to order. As a reminder, please mute your microphones when others are speaking and unmute when it's your turn to speak. This will help with any background noise. Welcome everyone joining us on Facebook Live to view our meeting. Effective immediately and until further notice, the Pendergast School District Governing Board will be enforcing the Center for Disease Control guidance to limit all public gatherings to 10 people. As such, this meeting will be held telephonically with no public in-person attendance. There will be no call to the public, and this is referenced by Arizona Attorney General's opinion dated March 13th, 2020. And it's regarding the open meeting law and COVID-19. Again, welcome everyone to the Pendergast meeting. The first line of business will be, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
so moved.
We'll do Jed. Hilda, do you want to second that?
Second.
Okay, and Hilda seconds that. Any discussion? Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Next, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 16th. May I have a second?
Second.
And Jed seconds that. Any discussion? Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes,
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special board meeting of June 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
And Jet made a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Jose seconds it. Any discussion? Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Thank you. And then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the special board meeting of June 30th, 2020. Can I have a second?
Second.
And Hilda seconds the motion. Any discussion? Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Thank you. We now have the summary of current events from the superintendent and the governing board. Dr. DeBlue, do you want to start it off?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience and cabinet. Great to see all of you today. Welcome, Amy. Good to see you. So let's see what's going on. We are gearing up for the start of school via distance learning on August the 5th. A lot of excitement going on with Ed Services and our folks planning and getting ready so we can zoom in with our students, our scholars. So that's really, really exciting. We are planning a kickoff again for our amazing staff. It will be virtual, but wait. It's going to be super duper exciting, and we're very, very thankful to our many sponsors and vendors who have provided funds and goodies to give to our amazing staff. So much more information will be coming out on that. Also, Pendergast is open for business. We're registering students. Registration is going up. Come on down, give us a call. We'd love to have you and the beautiful scholars at Pendergast. Once again, thanks to the staff for all the amazing work they are doing via Zoom, via phone calls, via text, any means besides getting together to make sure that we plan a beautiful, beautiful educational year for our students. I'm excited about that. And I've been talking to Carrie today to get the 8th grade superintendent council ready. It'll be a virtual council, but oh, we're gonna make it exciting. So 8th graders, stay tuned for applications, etc. on that. And then we're also planning for the Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life conference, which comes in January. That too will be virtual, but I'm excited. It feels like we're almost back to normal. So thank you, Madam President, and let's have a great meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. DeBlue. Ms. Ortega Rosales.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to thank everybody for all of the hard work we have been putting forth in getting our new year of school started. Obviously, with a few little challenges and a lot of unknowns, but you know, we're just we have great individuals who truly believe in our community and are moving forward to make the best of our current situation. So thank you to all, and I hope that your holiday weekend last weekend was good and that you were able to rest so that we can focus on opening school. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arenas.
No, just to echo pretty much what Ms. Ortega Rosales mentioned, a sincere thank you and a sincere gratitude from all of us to the frontline workers at our district, you know, the cabinet members and certainly our respective administrators on our campuses and our teachers and our classified support staff. It's obviously it takes everyone to move forward, and I think everyone's doing that. So I sincerely appreciate everyone's support. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, just to echo that, you know, thank you to everybody who's putting in work for reopening, whether it's virtual or in person, and what that may look like. I know that the girls and I have taken a walk up to the school to talk to some of our lunch folks and breakfast folks that are handing out meals on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and the smiles on their faces when they see the students and calling Lauren by name and Lauren's face lighting up and seeing those relationships that exist. I know that those are really, really important, and to hear Tracy, who's at Sonoran Sky, say, hey, you know, I love my job. Even though I'm out here and it's 100 degrees and I'm handing out food, I love my job. So really a big thanks to those folks that are still making everything work. And with that too, I know there's been a lot of projects around the district. You know, again, just being at Sonoran Sky, the parking lot looks great. I know there's other parking lots that are getting redone, and roofing that's getting redone, and a lot of other projects that are still happening, even though folks aren't on campuses. So, you know, the beat goes on, and people are still making it happen in Pendergast, even in extraordinary times. Just on a quick personal note, today's the 15th anniversary of my brother's death. He took his own life 15 years ago. And so just to kind of go back to what Dr. DeBlue said about Speak Up, Stand Up, really thankful for that program in our district, and really thankful for our counselors and our new social workers that are going to be coming on board as well to guide our students through not only this COVID pandemic and everything that goes along with it, but just with life in general. So again, just thank you for that, from that social emotional point of view. And then just the last day to register to vote was yesterday. Early ballots, if you've requested an early ballot, will be mailed out tomorrow. So just important as always to vote however you are going to vote. Encourage folks to vote. A lot of important offices up this election cycle, and a lot of money at stake that's being distributed out in interesting ways to keep an eye on. for that. You know, I will take 100% responsibility and accountability, and I'm sure my fellow board members will as well with our decisions that we make. But really, we're at the bottom of the pile, right? Our little piece of the pie is below the state, below the city, below the county level. And so I would just encourage folks to kind of take a look at about how some of those funds are being distributed out as we go to reopen.
Thank you. Senator Quezada.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I don't have a lot. Just want to reach out to or just give a shout out to all of our educators and all of our administrators who are busy planning for the upcoming year. This is going to be an incredibly challenging year, and I don't think we can say it often enough that we recognize how challenging this year is going to be. The start of this year is going to be with everything that's happening in our community right now. So just want to say thank you to everyone for all the hard work that you guys are doing, and just know that we're trying our best to minimize the negative effects of everything that's happening on all of you, because you're taking care of our kids. So just thank you for that. Aside from that, I just want to echo Mr. White's comments about voting. An important primary election. Not as many people participate in the primary elections as they do in the general elections, but for a lot of races, the races are actually decided in the primary as opposed to the general. So if you really want your vote to count and to have a bigger impact, make sure you participate in the primary. And that's whether you're voting for Democrat or Republican, whichever one you want to do, just get involved and participate in that primary election. If you are an independent, you can choose which ballot you want to vote in. You can vote in the Democratic primary, or you can vote in the Republican primary. So whichever one you think is a better fit, or you'll have a bigger impact in, just choose that one, and please participate in the primary election, especially independent voters. We really want you to do that. And then the third thing I just wanted to mention was our numbers, our COVID numbers continue to rise in the state of Arizona. So it's getting very scary. We're now leading the world or we're up amongst the top in the world of positive cases right now. So things are getting really bad. We're all starting to know people personally. I know a few people now, personally, members of my family who've tested positive and who've been infected, and others who are getting sick now. So if you don't know somebody, you probably will soon. And so I hope that we can avoid all of that. So I just want to remind everyone to, socially distance, social distance from each other, wear a mask all the time, and wash your hands and use that sanitizer as often as you can. I still go out there, I see a lot of people who aren't doing that, but more and more people are starting to do that. And I think that's really important, especially in our community, because we are having some of the highest rates in our zip codes right here around Pendergast. So just do that. And then lastly, and then I'll let everyone go, but I do want to congratulate my colleagues, Mr. White, Ms. Ortega Rosales, and Mr. Arenas. They all qualified to run for re-election to the school board. And I believe they're the only ones who qualified. So I want to congratulate them. I know it's not official yet, but just making the ballot is an impressive feat to accomplish. And I'm really glad you three have done that. So until November, when it becomes official. But thank you guys for all the hard work you guys did.
Thank you. And just echoing what Senator Quezada said about the COVID numbers rising, and just it's hitting way too close to home for many, many of us. And it's a scary thing because you never know what's going to happen each day. And, right now there's really not a lot, you can do until you get very bad and have to go to the hospital. And unfortunately, the number of hospital beds, there's not a lot of them. So please, everybody, I encourage you, like Senator Quezada said, wear the mask, social distance, and more importantly, stay home when you don't have to go out. That is so important. That will help get our numbers down. And I want to thank our staff, the wonderful plans going on for the online opening of our schools. And I want to tell you that I received a lot of favorable comments from parents saying, yes, thank you. kids first, staff first, you know, you really thought of us and they are so grateful that we're going to be doing the online for a while. And again, our staff is the best, and that is why Pendergast is #1. Thank you everyone for all you do. I appreciate it. And then next, excuse me, on the agenda, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through E?
So moved.
Jet made a motion. I'll second that. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam President,
Yes.
this isn't really in regard to what's on the consent agenda, but just a suggestion maybe for future meetings, and only to kind of speed things up. But I wonder if we could maybe add our minutes into the consent agenda, so we don't have to vote on those separately, and we can always pull them off if we need to, but maybe something to add to our consent agenda for the future.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Sarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Dr. DeBlue, are there any new hires or special announcements you'd like to make?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and members of the community. I am excited to announce our new hires. We have the Director of Budget, Matthew Pogue, in the Finance Department, Interim Assistant Principal at Amberlea, Brandon Valdez, Teacher at Villa de Paz, Joseph Colombo, Teacher at Desert Horizon, Cecilia Francisco, Teacher at Sonoran Sky, Elizabeth Giovino, Desert Mirage Teacher, Brenna Hoffner, Teresa Holmes, Special Education Teacher at Villa de Paz, Susan Kropp, Special Education Teacher at Desert Mirage. Okay, hold on, this one's gonna get me. Umasador Rowland, Psychologist, Special Education Department. Carla White, Social Worker, Special Education Department. Anna Wilson, Social Worker, Special Education Department. Our awesome instructional assistant, Nico Aguilar at Desert Horizon. Tamara Clark, Principal. Let me hold off on that one. Katie Goodwin, Instructional Assistant at Copper King. And then we have a change of assignment, Renee Gaydon, who she will be the Interim Assistant Principal at Villa de Paz. We know her from last year. We got to visit her, so that's exciting. And Allison Lloyd, Assistive Technology Coordinator in the Special Education Department. We're really excited to have all of you with us. Thank you for joining Pendergast. Like Ms. Sarin said, the #1 district out there. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Pendergast family. Next on our agenda is a presentation of the fiscal year grants update from Dr. Cruz and the Education Service Team. Dr. Cruz?
Evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. DeBlue, members of cabinet and audience. My name is Jen Cruz. I'm the Chief Academic Officer, and I'm very excited to introduce my colleague, Amy Christopher. She's going to present information this evening about our federal programs and some of the larger state and federal grant funds that we receive per request previously from the board. Ms. Christopher?
Madam President, esteemed members of the board, Dr. DeBlue and community, I'm very excited to be able to present to you an overview of our federal and state grant programs for fiscal year 2021. We're going to start off this evening looking at 2 applications that we have in grants management. The first being our Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and that bundles together grant funds for Title I, Title II, and Title IV grant applications. And then next I'll talk about our Title III grant application, which supports our English language program. What's important to note with all of these title applications is that they must be aligned to our integrated action plan. And that planning has continued. It started well before March. Our school site teams, our leadership teams engaged in a comprehensive needs assessment process with their site teams, involving staff, involving parents and community members, to look at the needs of their school site, including analyzing student data. And then all of our district decisions are based upon an analysis of those site needs and those plans. And so I'm going to share with you the allocation, the preliminary budget for each of these portions of our ESCA allocation. But it's just important to note that it is part of that process. We will be receiving our final allocations. We anticipate receiving those in the next few weeks. And then we will reach out, of course, to our site principals and provide them with updated budgets. And they will look at their integrated action plan and continue to fund initiatives that support strong student achievement. And then this just provides us with a visual of what that ongoing process looks like across the district. And what's important to note is, of course, everything that we select, we're looking for evidence. You know, does it work for our students? And that is the lens in which we are selecting any new programs or continuing programs. So our ESCA consolidated, that Title I portion has both a district and site allocation. It's important to point out that our school sites continue to have Title I school-wide programs, meaning they are all at or above 40% free and reduced lunch. Our Title I preliminary allocation for this next fiscal year is $2,505,837.80. And that includes a district set-aside portion of $981,567.80. And that's the portion that I'll speak towards first. We do have set-asides that are required to be in that allocation, and then set-asides we can opt to include. And so I'll go over each of the set-asides in that district portion. Our first set-aside does support district-level administration, and you can see that total is a little under $438,000. The majority of it is to the 4 positions that you see on this slide. It supports the salaries and benefits for those positions. And these are positions that are essential to our district level operations as we support our school sites. And so it does include a portion of, for example, my position, our federal programs and grant specialist, our director of curriculum and innovation, and then our ELA and social studies coordinator. And with all of our preliminary applications, whether it's at the district level or the sites, our goal is to preserve the positions that are supporting our programs first. And when we receive our final allocations, we'll adjust to see what is next on our priority to include in our budget. LEA administration does include professional services. You can see that's in the amount of $30,000. We did utilize school status as a data analytics and communication tool. It's been particularly important with the school shutdown starting in March because it has supported communicating to our families, including supporting translation, and our teachers are able to reach out to families through this system versus providing or using a personal phone. So it was important to us to continue that in our next fiscal year. And then there's a smaller budget, of course, for related supplies. Our next set asides required, and that is our indirect costs. That rate is set at 2.47%, and that represents the $60,369.57 you see in this set aside. Our next set aside is also a required portion of Title I in our district set aside allocation, and that is in the amount of $33,578.23. And what that represents is a process of consultation to provide equitable services to the students we have identified as being eligible to receive the support in participating private schools. And so right now we have 9 private schools that we've identified. They are located outside of our boundaries, but the students they serve that are eligible are living within PESD boundaries. The majority of their school sites are parochial schools with the diocese in Phoenix. And then when we consult with our private school colleagues, we are ensuring that we're providing them with an equitable portion of this allocation to support parent involvement, professional development for the teachers serving those students, and then any related activities. And so through consultation, we ensure we have a program that will support those students. Another set aside is instructional programs, and that's in the amount of $51,500. We utilize these Title I district funds. You'll see it a few slides later. We braid it with some state funding to ensure that we have a district-wide literacy supplemental program. This will be the second year that we have Lexia Core 5 reading and Power Up Literacy district-wide for all K-8 students. We've also added Ed Puzzle, which is an interactive video lesson platform that our teachers found very valuable as we switch to remote learning, and we want to continue offering that tool to both our teachers and students in the next fiscal year. Another required set aside is for students experiencing homelessness. It's in the amount of $114,800. It does include the salary and benefits for our amazing liaison. She does amazing work with our community and our identified students. You can see on the right side of the screen the count of identified students. It has increased at the end of each of our fiscal years. So it's important for us to continue to preserve this budget and also evaluate it, looking at student data to see if we need to do any increases. And in a few slides, I'll share with you some additional funding we've been awarded as of this week that will assist us in meeting these needs. And this budget does include tuition, supplies. You can see the bullets, the details as to what that would look like. And then of course, additional transportation services, and that would include potentially mileage reimbursement to parents to ensure students can get to school. It may be bus passes, any allowable transportation services that we can utilize to support our students experiencing homelessness. We are required to include 1% of our application for family and community engagement. We were looking for an evidence-based program as we move forward into the next school year that also offers a virtual option. And so we do have a partner that has been a vendor with us that provides services to our private schools, and they did have an evidence-based program. And so when our grant is approved by ADE, this is the program that we will collaborate with school site teams to move towards. Catapult Learning Family Connections Program offers online virtual parent workshops. So we would be able to start this work even before we are back in our buildings. To give you an example of the sessions that they offer, one is called How to Support Your Child with Virtual Instruction, or Learning Doesn't End at School, or Screen Time and Educational Apps. So they will tailor the content based on the school site needs. And they also offer follow-up parent liaison support. They would interface with our team to do some follow-up work. And so we felt that was a great fit as we're looking for an evidence-based program as we move into the next school year. And as we engage in that work, I will absolutely share updates with you. The other set aside we have in Title I is for professional development. It's $253,750 in total. That does include a 0.5 FTE for 6 sites. We braid funds with 2 other funding sources to ensure every school site in our district has a full-time instructional coach. We know the value that brings to our instructional programs and our teachers and our student achievement at sites. We also include in this set aside in the preliminary allocation, it's $48,800. The majority of that supports our PBIS training academy. That's important we sustain and continue that work. And then we also have funding built in the grant currently to pay for those registration fees related to the state ESSA conference. And then our National Children of Incarcerated Parents Conference, our McKinney Vento foster care liaison, she attends that annually and feels that that provides her with really valuable tools to bring back to some targeted families that we support. Moving on to our site allocations, you can see the site allocations total $1,524,270. That represents a per pupil allocation of $232.50. And in the next 2 slides, it will break down by school site what that represents for the school site, what their preliminary budget allocation is. And so you will see their enrollment. It is captured, of course, in the prior fiscal year. Their free and reduced lunch percentage, which again, all of our sites are above 40%, and that provides them with that allocation. Our school sites also focus in their preliminary allocation on preserving staff. Every one of our school sites funds a full-time Title I reading interventionist, and that has been part of our site-based applications for a very long time because it is such an effective position. They also fund instructional aides to support students, and then beyond that, when we receive our final allocation, the principals will engage in looking at additional pieces such as after-school tutoring to provide support to their students. And so another piece of the ESEA consolidated application is Title II, and this focuses on professional learning for our teachers and leaders, and this is a district-wide allocation or budget. Again, it has to align to our integrated action plan. Our preliminary allocation is $332,355.53. That primarily supports salaries and benefits for the positions that you see listed here. That these have been positions that we want to sustain going into the next school year because of the important support they provide to our school sites. We are also continuing in that preliminary allocation to have a stipend for a site-based technology integration coach. They provide or complete work outside of their regular work hours. So this is in addition or stipended work, and they coordinate with a technology integration specialist. And definitely with what we're moving towards to do, that position is very important. We want to continue that. We also want to develop and deepen site mentorship of our new teachers. And so we are building out that program by identifying and providing stipends to teachers who might serve as mentors at the school site. Another smaller amount in this preliminary allocation does focus on professional development. Specifically, we will be utilizing an LMS management system. And so that is a online system for professional development that our curriculum department will use to coordinate all of the training that we are receiving in a virtual or online platform. And then, of course, related training and supplies can be funded out of Title II. The final piece of our ESEA consolidated application is Title IV, and that is a block grant, and it's similar to our Title I funding. It's the same formula. We did conduct, of course, a needs assessment because we have a larger allocation. And you'll see in the next slide, we have 3 areas that we focus these monies within, and there are specific percentages that we must include in this grant allocation. And so our preliminary allocation is $160,726.53. We distribute those funds by ensuring we have at least 20% towards safe and healthy students, 20% that's focused on that well-rounded education, and then the remaining funds can be spent in any of those 3 designated areas, but we must include an emphasis on technology. In our preliminary allocation, you can see on the right how we've broken down those funding chunks within that overall allocation. Our salaries for our social emotional learning mentors, and they were positions that were established in the year prior, and we want to continue the work they do with our students who need that support. They are funded through both that well-rounded and that safe and healthy. You're able to braid funds within Title IV, and so that's what we did to ensure we have those positions. We're also adding, to emphasize technology, some stipends to provide targeted training for our teachers in a response to what we're moving towards with distance learning, in particular teaching in a virtual environment. And the other piece of Title IV that will continue is our Be Kind program. And so our Be Fit, Be Healthy, Be Kind, our school site launch and assemblies is funded through Title IV. And that wraps up a summary of that grant application. The next application I will provide you with an overview of is our Title III grant application for English language learners. And of course, we are focused on increasing the English language proficiency of those students. And we must include what you can see on the slide here. We must include an emphasis on parent and community engagement. And then the goal, of course, is that this is in addition to all of the other support that our English language learners receive in our other programs. So an analogy for this, it's always the cherry on top. So we're always very aware of that supplement, not supplant rule when we're planning this budget. Our preliminary allocation at this time is $134,788.34. Again, we're focusing on continuing the staffing that makes our program strong. And that includes funding the salary and benefits for a full-time community outreach liaison. Our Angie Martinez is our liaison, and she provides ESL classes, for example, to our parents of English language learners. She works with them on understanding AZELA reports and data and connecting them with their school sites and just doing a lot of wonderful work. So we are very glad that she's continuing with us. We'll also be able to continue funding 4 positions. The hours are a little different, and we allocate them based on the number of English learners at a given school site. And so we'll have 2 positions at that 0.88 level of FTE and 2 at 0.69. And they will assist with small group instruction, specifically with identified EL students under the supervision of a certified teacher in a classroom. The remainder of the funding after those positions, salaries and benefits are met, was to provide us with those registration fees to keep us current with best practice So our language acquisition coordinator can attend Pell meetings, and we can attend some Title III grant process and updates. So that's a summary of Title III. The next federal grant that we have is, of course, our IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And the funding for IDEA, we have 2 applications. We have IDEA Basic and IDEA Preschool that we support. The amazing Exceptional Student Services Department and Ms. Parker, she determines this grant budget based on the needs in her program, and we support her in submitting those applications. And so I want to provide you with a preliminary allocation for each. For IDA Basic, it's $1,449,376.95, and it is focused on salaries. And so when we receive a final allocation, then other decisions can be made as far as what we can fund in addition to what you see here. But currently it is 28 of our certified special education teachers, part-time early childhood itinerant teacher, an occupational therapist, and an interpreter translation aide. Their salaries and benefits are supported in this grant. For the preschool grant, the initial allocation is $54,124.28. And currently that allows us to sustain 2 early childhood instructional assistant positions. And so the next portion of the presentation, the overview, is related to our school improvement grants. So these are state grants, and there are 3. These are grants we were eligible to apply for. We did apply for them, and we have received a grant award is in process for each or has been awarded. So the first grant in this list is our Systematic Leadership Development Grant. This is the 2nd year that we've applied for funds. Last year, we applied and received funding for our principals and targeted educational services and some assistant principals to participate in an ASCD Principal Leadership Academy. And we had amazing feedback from that experience. It was a wonderful presenter. It was focused on reflection and coaching our teachers and ensuring strong instruction on our campuses. And so we want to continue that work this year. And so this grant award will allow us to send people who were not able to attend or a new hire in our leadership group to attend level 1. And we will deepen our understanding with some level 2 work. And then the amazing presenter we had will be able to do some site-based consulting directly with our principals. The next school improvement grant is our Targeted Support and Improvement Grant. We received a slightly larger allocation this year. It was approximately 20% increase, which we were very appreciative of. The total allocation is $180,000. This is funding to support the schools that you see listed on the slide. They each have 1 or more student subgroups that are identified as needing additional support, and that's what this funding provides. And as you'll see, it's mentioning Lexia, our evidence-based supplemental literacy program. We braid funding out of our district set-asides for Title I to ensure our 2 schools that are not listed here can also take advantage of the program. And so it is a district-wide emphasis, and our goal is to ensure that all of our students who are struggling with literacy are included and can take advantage of the supplemental program. With that additional funding, what we will do is provide some targeted training for our staff, particularly our teachers working with students with disabilities. And then we also want to establish a data and planning committee to dig into our data, including our attendance data, our discipline data, to make recommendations at the site and district level. And this is what we're very excited about. We have our School Safety Program Award. It's wonderful that we are, as you see in the bottom of the slide, we have that August 1st goal to onboard all of our social workers. We have our final 2 candidates coming on board with us, which is wonderful. 6 of our school sites will receive their support, and this grant application provides us with funding towards their salaries and benefits. So we're very excited to have this 3-year grant program. And a few other additional state grants that we also have. One is pending, and that's a gifted education grant. And the other 2, we have received an award, confirmed approved award from, which is very exciting. The first, our gifted education grant, that will open August 1st. So I did include here an idea of what that allocation may be. You can see our fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 allocations. Those funds, when we receive them, the Exceptional Student Services Department looks at the needs of our gifted program. Typically, the funds support teacher training and perhaps the purchase of assessment materials or other materials that are needed to support our students. What we are I think I keep using the word exciting, but it's been a good week this week with grants. So we just found out, I think it was yesterday, that we were notified that we did receive an additional grant award, and that is the Education for Homeless Children and Youth Year 1 grant. It was interesting that we were also invited to apply for an FY20 allocation. So that's why you see 2 fiscal years in this slide. So we were awarded 2 pots of money for the same purpose. One, the FY20 we can utilize up through September, and then our FY21 will be for the next full fiscal year. And so altogether, that's about $40,000 in additional funding to meet the needs of our students experiencing homelessness. And so we're very excited about that. And you can see the 3 priority needs that that grant budget will include. And the increase of hygiene supplies in particular is something that we've heard a lot about because our typical donations from our community partners don't extend to some of the things our families need in light of COVID-19. So we're excited to move those budgets forward. And then our final approved budget for our SEI Budget Comprehensive Grant that our language acquisition coordinator collaborated with me to write is $741,165. And that will support 10 FTE full-time SEI itinerant teachers to meet the needs of our EL students at our identified school sites with high needs. And so we are very excited that we received that award. And that brings me last but not least to our ESSER grant. We did receive an ESSER grant allocation of $2,051,218.76. It was assigned to start in fiscal year 20. That's why you see it labeled as such. But our integrated action plan must be updated in this current fiscal year 21 to reflect what we fund out of the ESSER grant. What this slide shares with you are the different elements that we've been talking through. We've had a lot of recommendations from our continuous learning teams as to what tools are needed to ensure that we have high impact instruction at our school sites as we move forward, in particular with distance learning. And so that's what our funds will be focused on. We anticipate finishing our grant application, our budget by next week, and then I can provide you with more specific details on the breakdown of that budget. What I can share with you right now is our equitable services portion, which is $40,203.89 of the budget. And you can see what that proportionate share reflects. As we are providing ESSER funding to all of our school sites or Title I, we are following that ADE guidance and providing equitable services funding in the same formula as we would our Title I funding. And so it's that same 89 identified students. That number is the same as is identified for our Title I fiscal year 21 grant. And that is the amount of equitable services we will be providing. In consultation so far with our private schools, they're mainly using those funds for sanitation and cleaning supplies. And that is the information that I have for you tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Christopher. Questions from the board? Mr. White?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions, if that's okay, Madam President. So thank you for the presentation. Very, very thorough and it is exciting. ESSER is exciting. It excites me because I feel like we get told all day long that we can't spend money in certain ways, and now with ESSER, it kind of gives us a little bit of freedom. So I'm excited about that for sure. Maybe that's just the online shopping in me that wants to come out. You mentioned for the private schools, they're getting a portion of some of that funding, correct?
Correct.
Am I correct in saying that charter schools are getting some of that funding as well, based on that funding is based on the boundaries of the district Title I and not by the LEA? Is that accurate to say?
So the funding, equitable services has been interesting. So we've had that state level guidance, and then there was an interim final rule. And so we're in a unique situation as a district, and then all our school sites are Title I. Mm-hmm. And so we are providing funding. And so that's what's and hopefully if I'm not answering your question, please let me know, but that's what's impacting how we are providing funding. And currently we do not, my understanding, charter schools are able to apply for that funding
Okay.
independently of us. And so right now, the equitable services is focused on the private schools that are eligible to receive funding from us.
Okay, thank you. That does answer my question. Thank you. And then you mentioned mentors. So I know you talked about like technology coaches or technology mentors at districts, and then the SEL mentors. So are those certified teachers who get a stipend? So they are classroom teachers who get a stipend to be a technology lead or an SEL lead on their campus, or are those separate positions?
So Mr. Wright, members of the board, the SEL position, our social emotional learning classified staff, that is their sole responsibility. So they are classified staff members, and they work in coordination with our coordinator for culture and climate under the direction of Ms. Parker in Exceptional Student Services to provide that targeted support. And then there was a mention in our budget, we are wanting to have stipends available at the site level for certified teachers to mentor new teachers. And so that is like a reestablishing something that we had in place several years ago. We've not had the funding to have that in quite the same way the last few years, and it's needed. And so I didn't mean to be confusing about those two pieces.
No, that's perfect, and it is needed. I was a terrible teacher my first year. I probably shouldn't have been renewed. And thankfully I had some good mentors that helped me, and now 11 years later, here I am. And then just a quick comment. I'm really excited, to steal your word, but truly excited just about the grant for our students and families that are experiencing homelessness with COVID and the pandemic, and we're unsure about extension of unemployment benefits or evictions and things like that. We know that even if those things are extended, they're going to hit our community and a lot of communities hard. So I really just appreciate applying for that and also being awarded that and keeping those families and those students in mind.
Madam President, Mr. White, we do also have tech mentors that are certified teachers who do receive a stipend. So we have support for the certified faculty and also for the students across multiple levels at the schools this upcoming year. And we really appreciate Ms. Christopher working with Ms. Flister and with our principals to make sure that teachers feel like they've got the support that they need to be successful, but also that we provide direct service to kiddos that might need some additional behavior support. The SEL mentors have been a fantastic addition, and again, that really speaks volumes to the writing that Ms. Christopher has done, and just keep looking for all those opportunities to support our kids and teachers. So I personally really appreciate that. She's really gotten after it, and I think that there's more out there for our kids because of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christopher.
Other questions from the board?
Yeah.
Senator Quesada, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Christopher. That was very good information, and it's good to have all of that all in one place to kind of see where we are with all of that. I'm not really an expert on grants like Ms. Ortega Rosales is, so I don't know as much about all of this, but I'm curious, and this may be like a bigger question, but I'm curious. Do we generally structure the use of our grant money the same way that most other districts do? And I'm speaking in terms of like what is used for salaries and benefits and what it's used for other types of programs. I mean, I know that there's some restrictions in how we use that money, but I guess the reason why I ask is, I mean, I'm wondering if, I'm sure that this is the best way to use it, but I'm always wondering, is there a better way for us to use our money?
No, Madam President, Senator Quesada, members of the board, that is the question. And I think that's the question that we wrestle with always, is evaluating our programs and making sure they're supporting our students. We are able, it's public information, we can look at any grant application for any other school district and see how they're using their funds. So once the applications are published, and we do that, our federal programs and grant specialist and we routinely go in and review other systems, grant applications to determine how they're using their funds. And some of what you saw and what I presented, actually the start or the spark of that idea came from other systems saying this is what we're doing and it's effective. So for example, our English, our ELD instructional aids in Title III, that was from another system that said this is how we're using our funds, put it in people. It's sustaining itself, it's meeting a need for kids. And so that is how that became an approved piece of our application. And so we will keep doing that and looking and making sure, and especially if our needs shift with our integrated action plans from our school site, that is that annual lens that we're looking at all of our grants through to make sure that we're funding what we should fund to increase our student achievement.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. That's good to know. And I assumed you were doing that, so that's great. I guess one other question, looking at the Title I district set-asides, I noticed that we have set aside 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we kind of jump to 7 and 8 and 9. Are there 5 and 6 in there, or what are those? And did I just miss those somehow, or?
No, Senator Quesada, you did not miss them. I skipped over them intentionally. We can choose to include those in our application or not. So for example, one of those set-asides is preschool. Currently, we do not have preschool funding in our LEA set-aside grant, but we could. And there's been a few years past that we did have some preschool funded grant activities. And so that's why that number is out of order or missing, because we don't have it included currently.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Other questions?
Madam President,
Go ahead.
first of all, Ms. Christopher, you did an excellent job. I walked your shoes for 17 years, 10 years, I'm sorry, 10 years. And I truly understand the work and the effort and the leadership, most importantly, that is required to be able to, number one, ensure that we get the funding, that we maintain the funding, and that it is truly in the interest of our students and our staff in helping them in their educational journey, both academically, socially, emotionally, etc. And the work that needs to be done in this role is one of collaborating not only with internal staff, but also external staff. And it's a lot of work. And there's a lot of detail. People don't understand that if you do not ensure that you're a good steward of those funds, they can be taken away. And obviously that's not what we want. And so lots of intricacies, lots of regulations. Regulations are given to you, and 60 days later, they could be changed. And so it's an effort on everybody's part to make sure that we're doing that. And it takes leadership from that individual who manages all of this to ensure that all those pieces of the puzzle fit well and are used well. And so congratulations for all the work that you do for our students and our staff. I have just a couple of questions. And one is, what is our current homeless student count?
Our current count, and it is included, we have a May count because when the school year ended, that's the number that's frozen in time. It's 181 as of this last May, the last day of school.
Okay. And the SEI allocation for FY20, what was it?
The allocation for the SEI budget grant, we did not, this is the first time we've applied for that. So this is we did not have an allocation in FY20. So that is a new grant for us.
That's another example, is that there are many grants out there, and you always have to be looking in the grant radar to ensure that we're taking advantage of all those opportunities. So that's a significant amount of money. Congratulations on that. And on the ESSER grant, can you tell me a little bit about the after-school programs that you're considering?
And Currently, I can share, like broadly speaking, our ESSER grant allocations. We have instructional tools that are built into that grant application. We'll be finalizing it next week. I know our after-school funding, what we're looking at is when we receive our final allocation out of Title I, that our school sites would utilize both funding they still have remaining in FY20, which can be spent up to the last Friday in August, to do targeted after-school tutoring at their school sites, and that they would add in the funding they receive in their final allocation to extend that tutoring out of Title. And so we don't have a specific or explicit footprint at the moment in the ESSER grant. And I'll defer to Dr. Cruz if there's anything you want to add related to that.
No, Madam President, Ms. Ortega-Rosales. No, Ms. Christopher is spot on with that. We're waiting to see what our final allocations are going to be. And then our principals will have an opportunity to take a look at their data from our initial assessment of the students and basically go from there to figure out our programming. So we're going to continue to provide intervention for students, but we're also going to be providing extracurricular activities to encourage, safe and healthy students, right, to connect with their, with their friends. After school is over for some different kinds of activities. So we're also in part waiting for the teaching faculty to report back to work, because they're going to have a lot to say in terms of what kinds of extracurricular opportunities we can provide, and then help us figure out what tutoring needs are.
I may have not been very clear, Dr. Cruz and Ms. Christopher. What I was asking is the ESSER grant, not the ESSA. There was one of the slides talked about after-school programs.
Madam President, Mr. Ortega-Rosales, we consider it really one and the same because we use the same rules in order to. Yeah. So it's, yes. So we do consider it the same pot of money because we use the same rules in order to actually, work with those dollars. So for us, for instance, if we have an opportunity, to use Zoom, for instance, that's coming out of the ESSER funds, but that's how we will facilitate our after-school clubs with kids. We have money set aside for science manipulatives, right? So that we can send some things home for students, but that then might become, an after-school science club, with those, kinds of materials. So that's where for us, like administratively, it gets a little bit, it's not fuzzy for us because we're tracking all the funds, but for the folks on the other side who benefit from the support and the programming, they see it as one big thing, right? We're going to provide after school help for their kids. But that's where you would see it, like actually in the grant, is through some different programs like that and bits and pieces like that.
Thank you to both of you.
Ms. Christopher, a great presentation. It really explained all the different title funds, and I appreciate that. You answered most of my questions throughout the presentation, but I do have a couple. Under the Title IV, it said 4 full-time social emotional learning mentors. Will they disperse, each have specific schools to go to? How will that work? I know we have it now, but how does it work, I should say?
And Madam President, I am going to defer to Dr. Cruz to answer that one. I think she has more in-depth knowledge than I have about their specific role.
Madam President, thanks for asking about our social emotional learning mentors. We're very excited that Ms. Christopher and Ms. King were able to figure out how we could actually grow that program, because we found that it was really high impact for our students. What happens is that through our positive behavior intervention and support, what we find is that there are some students who need just a little bit more time, attention, maybe some additional social emotional learning lessons in order for them to be successful in the classroom and really exhibit those pro-social behaviors. So what happens is that we basically deploy our social emotional mentors to different students throughout the district. So we try to be smart and basically like create a map that makes sense for them, because they are itinerant staff members, but they're the group of students that they provide support to actually fluctuates throughout the year, depending on who needs support. And then our work is to actually get those kids to not need their support anymore, so that we can move on to the next student who needs support. So we've actually been doing that during summer school as well. So those folks actually do a few different things. They do mini lessons. So they might have a student who needs support, but they need to work on maybe having more positive interactions or relationships with other students. So they might grab a small group of students, even though they're there like specifically to target one child who needs help, but you need other kiddos in order to create the situation, to coach them through, successfully. So we found that we've had decreasing referrals for those students that have that contact, and then also provides support for principals and for teachers who have really used up their bag of tricks, so to speak, for a student, and they need someone else to kind of come in and provide that additional, more than just check in, check out. It's it's a little bit more than that. And then we have a certified teacher who will go in and actually model some different ways to support that student for the teacher. So there's this partnership between our certified staff at Ed Services who go out and do that, and then the classified staff members who go provide support for the student, because really it's the whole environment that the student is interacting in that we all have a part to play. So it's kind of this big problem solving team. So really, it's a really cool thing to watch, because we've seen negative student behaviors decrease and those positive behaviors increase. And then hopefully we're building capacity with the teaching faculty so that, moving forward, if they have another student who demonstrates those kinds of behaviors, their bag of tricks to, work with is a little bit bigger.
Great, thank you so much. One other thing, you had set aside number 8, family community engagement. Ms. Christopher, what exactly would that look like?
So, Madam President, members of the board, that program has would be a new program that we'll be launching. Like we were looking for an evidence-based program that has that virtual component. And what they offer is 3 components. So they would have parent engagement activities for our school sites. It could be virtual, it could be in person, just depending on the situation that we are within. But they offer both, and they have that built out now as a structure. They first liaison with the school site principals, find out what their needs are. There is a menu of options the school site principals are then able to select from. So they will have input on what those sessions may be. Based on what the parents are expressing a need in for that given school site. Our goal right now is to build out where each school site would have that individualized support. They would be just tailored to their parents. And so that's that second piece. And then the follow-up is, they call it coaching, whether it's virtual or it's in person. They follow up with the site team. They do have someone who's certified or has the qualifications to be a parent liaison, who can, if the school team wants them to participate in this way, they can directly reach out to the parents who've participated in the workshops and provide follow-up support and dialogue, or they can funnel that information to our liaison team. Like we have our Family Resource Center, we have a community education wraparound system of support. And so that's the piece that we'll have to determine once we get to know this program as to what's best for our families. But it's those 3 pieces. So it's scheduling those events, those workshops, through the lens of what the site leader sees that their parents would benefit and their students would benefit from. And then it's that follow-up coaching and support. And we're hopeful that we can have between 2, just dependent on the funding and how that works, between 2 and 4 events for each of our campuses this year.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
I just had Madam President, a couple of quick questions, and
Go ahead.
I think some of these may have to will fall under the Patty Tussie's responsibilities. But in terms of social workers, Ms. Christopher, as of right now, I should know this answer, but last time I asked the last meeting about nurses and health assistants on our campuses, and they kind of came back and got me. So let me quickly ask. At each school right now, we currently have, because I saw this in the grant, we have a social worker assigned at each school. Is that correct?
Mr. Arenas, we have 3 social worker positions. Each position supports 2 school sites. So 6 of our school sites are included in the grant applications. And so it is not, unfortunately, 1 social worker per campus.
Okay, okay, got you. Next question along the same lines, instructional coaches. Is that the same kind of model, or what do we have at the? I saw the breakdown in terms of the funding, but does each campus have? Can each campus leverage the responsibility of an instructional coach on their campus?
So each school site currently has a full-time instructional coach. We braid funding through it's K3 Move On When Reading funding. We have some additional 301 funding that is applicable for that position, supporting PD and support for our teachers. And so between those 3 funding areas, we're able to ensure that each school site receives a full-time coach.
Gotcha. And I assume that based on what your presentation, when it got down to the ESSER kind of umbrella of flexibility with funding, if you will, it seems like just from our previous presentations from Dr. Cruz's leadership and Dr. DeBlue's leadership and cabinet's leadership is that the instructional support and SEL support, there's some latitude there with the ESSER funding in terms of us moving forward with some of the COVID-19 unintended consequences. Is that correct? We're looking at programming.
Right. No, there is flexibility. What you see on the slide that I presented, these are all of the areas that as a team we're considering, and we wanted to talk through. There's a series of questions that go with each of those bullets as a team that we're considering when we build out the grant application. And so it's this wide net of what we can do, but then it's narrowing it down to what's actionable, and then that's what you kind of see us grappling with this evening. But we will have a more explicit final grant application for the ESSER funds, and we can provide you with an update most likely in a week. That's our goal, is to submit this in a week.
And my last question or statement more than anything is that I was a little surprised by the number of 181 homeless students. So those students fall under the McKinney-Vento element, if you will, or umbrella. And is there, obviously there's site administration and teachers right at the forefront of working with their students who fall under those situations. But who, again, and I should know this, I'm sorry, but it would be under Ms. Parker's leadership, I'm sure, but there's a coordinator who works directly with that family once triage is done, if you will. Is that correct in terms of services?
Mr. Renos, we have an amazing McKinney-Vento liaison, Isabel Martinez, and she actually works for me, so I supervise her. So that is a program that I supervise, and she was part-time because of the need that you see represented in our number. We moved her position to being full-time.
Great.
And she is very skilled in what she does and very passionate on behalf of our children. And then our goal is, of course, to remove barriers and make sure we're identifying our families, and that additional funding that you saw, that additional grant funding that we're receiving this year will help us train our staff to make sure that we are, that those numbers represent truly what is occurring in the district.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. And as you know, we stream live on Facebook, and there's a couple comments. One, Amy rocks. I thought you'd like that, Ms. Christopher. Also, a kudo that the grants breakdown was very informative and clear and understanding, and they thank you for that. Also, we've gotten a lot of comments on how we're conducting our board meetings too, that we're streaming it live, and it's interactive, there's questions, and our community appreciates that. But again, Ms. Christopher, Dr. Cruz, thank you for an excellent presentation. We appreciate it. And then next on our agenda, a presentation for fiscal year 2021 budget adoption and use of proceeds. Ms. Finbrace, you're up.
Good evening, Madam President, esteemed board members, Dr. DeBlue, members of cabinet, members of our audience. I will go ahead and bring my presentation up so we can go ahead and begin. Oh, goodness. Okay, here we go. So as we begin our presentation, the discussion items that we're going to have are additional funds, the average teacher salary, our enrollment, our fiscal year 21 proposed budget, the average classroom sizes, the working budget, as well as the executive order and the AZ CARES information that came out over the past couple weeks, our classroom site fund allocation, and our FY21 capital budget. So taking a look at our additional funds. We know that our funding formula, we utilize the base levels. So you can see our 2020 base levels and the inflation of 1.74%, as well as the 20 by 2020, which basically for fiscal year 21, we are looking at a base level of $4,359.55, and we do have the benefit of the with teacher compensation. So in our funding formula, we do use the $4,359.55. Our average teacher salary. Back in 2019, a requirement was then given that on the cover page of our budget, we do need to include the information in regards to our teacher's average salary. So on the cover page, you can see the calculation of our budget year as well as our prior year and what percentages have been provided to our teachers. So here is a representation of our average teacher salary. You can see that for fiscal year 21, the average is $52,696. And for fiscal year 20, it was $50,870. We do have an increase of 4%. And you can see that in fiscal year 18, our average teacher salary was $46,188. So overall, since fiscal year 18, that has been an increase of 14% for our teacher salaries. Looking at enrollment, so our district ended our fiscal year 20 year with an ADM of 8,549 students. So the projected ADM for fiscal year 21, we are projecting 8,234. That is taking into consideration variances of outgoing and incoming student classes. We did apply a reduction of 2% in enrollment due to varying factors such as COVID, as well as charter schools that are within our boundaries. So the total reduction is 315 ADM in this budget. So our fiscal year 21 proposed budget that was presented to the governing board, again, applied our base level. We are taking into account the teacher compensation of the $4,359.55. Our classroom site fund weight for this year is $425. In fiscal year 20, it was $434. There is a reduction of $9, and a portion of the 20 by 2020 was added to the classroom site fund for fiscal year 21. The district additional assistance reduction to the state aid is at 16% for fiscal year 21. In fiscal year 20, it was 32%. So you do see that the reduction, there was a decrease to that reduction. So we are actually seeing a 16% decrease in 21. The calculation is based on our fiscal year 20 ADM, and that is $450.76 per student count, totaling a little over $3.8 million. Our DAA reduction adjustment for our district is $616,583. So we do have a DAA budget of $3.2 million. So we do take into account the number of sections that we have, and obviously the progression, the migration of each of our class levels from one year to the next. So going into fiscal year 21, there is a reduction in the number of sections of 27 sections. And you can see the numbers for each of our school sites as well as by grade level. Average daily membership, you can see the progression from fiscal year 14 to where we are in our projections for fiscal year 21. You can see that we back in 14, we did have 9,281. We did very well in fiscal year 17. We were at 9,605, but over the past number of years, we have declined a bit in our enrollment and our average daily membership. So taking a look at our fiscal year 21 working budget limits. Again, with our funding calculations, taking into account our M&O override, as well as our Prop 123 funding and anticipated carry forward, we do have a working budget limit of $60,796,518. Our cost to maintain, taking a look at each of the categories within our budget, you can see that under each of the categories, we have, 47 million under regular education, 10.8 million in our exceptional student services area, and our student transportation of 1.9 million. MAUR, the move on when reading, 485,000, which gives us a total cost to maintain of 60,367,237. So additional expenditures and reduction items for M&O. We know that we do have an increase in our retirement, and we are expecting an increase of $39,009, and that was an adjustment of the percentage of 12.11% to 12.22% from one year to the next. Our medical insurance has increased, and so that is an increase of just a little over $1 million. And we did provide a wage increase to our staff, and that was just above 1.2 million for all staff members. So as I had shown in the previous slide, the reduction of FTE just with attrition of 1.9 million and the progression of sections and declining enrollment. So on Monday, the 29th, we do know that our governor provided us with Executive Order 2020-44, which stated that district students shall be considered an AOI student for the purposes of school funding calculations while participating in distance learning. So what does that mean to Pendergast? That actually means that the district would lose about 5% of our funding under the AOI calculations. So that would equate to a funding loss of a little over $3 million in that budget. AZ Cares was also shared with us over the past couple of weeks in terms of additional funding that ADE as well as the governor is looking to provide. So 200 million of that is the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and 69 million of that is the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, or the GEAR as it's referred to. ADE has an application process for receiving these funds. So we as a district, we have to apply for these funds. So in applying, the district will have a choice of selecting between these two areas. The first one being selecting the greater of 98% of our fiscal year 20 enrollment, or ADM. 98% would actually equate to 60,232,07 for Pendergast. Or the second option is fiscal year 21 40th day ADM. And anticipating what our 40th day ADM would be, making that selection as enhanced by funding online learners up to the same level as in person. So those are the two options in the application. And Finance Office is working closely with the Education Services Department to, to make sure that we get that applied for so that we can benefit from the AZ Cares funds. So to be eligible for this grant, the key accountability measures in order to meet this are student attendance data and financial compliance. Those are two. And then the next slide will have two additional items. Student attendance data is basically ensuring that no Arizona students are lost in the shuffle, that all schools will need to report their day one attendance figures to AZ Eds and continue to provide the updated information on a monthly basis, which is what districts do on an annual basis anyways. Financial compliance is basically eligibility of any of the eligibility for any of the funding and flexibility options proposed will be contingent upon the district and being in compliance with all state and federal financial transparency requirements. So the other two requirements are student achievement monitoring, as well as providing education in person the same number of days per week that they did the last school year. So under student achievement monitoring, each school district shall conduct benchmark testing within the first 6 weeks of the school year for all students in kindergarten programs and grades, well, in our case, up to 8th grade. And then of course, the data must be submitted to the state upon request. And providing education in person the same number of days per week, they do have that included in the application, stating that schools that wish to offer a hybrid model with kids learning in the classroom for the same number of days as what we offered in fiscal year 20. So what we were providing prior to COVID is what we basically have to provide, the same number of days of the week and the same amount of hours offered as the prior school year. So moving on, looking at classroom site funds, we do know that we have three areas within our classroom site fund. For Fund 11, we have our base salary allocation, and so our staff will be receiving, our teaching staff that are eligible, we're receiving $2,600 in base salary from the classroom site fund in that bucket. The performance pay $2,900, and Fund 13 is the final bucket, and there's various options available under the Fund 13 allocation. Taking a look at our capital budget is actually $3,668,994, and you can see that we do have allocation for furniture and equipment for all of our sites, as well as our departments. We do have an allocation for software licensing and textbook adoptions. We do have allocations that go out to our schools for curriculum, library books, and basically instructional materials, instructional aids, as well as library books. So you can see the various allocations that break down the budget allocations that we have. And then we do have our contingency. So we do have a contingency just over $1 million in capital for any additional capital needs that we may have that is not necessarily placed in any of those categories at this moment. And with that being said, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Fembres. As always, very informative. Before I call for questions, can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 budget adoption and the use of proceeds authorization plan as presented?
So move.
Mr. Arenas made a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. White, second that. Okay, discussion. Any questions?
I have a question, Madam President. So thank you, Ms. Fimbres. I know this is what, the third.
Questions? Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I freeze? I'm sorry. Yeah, I have one question, Madam President. So thank you, Ms. Fimbres. I know this is, I think the third time through for us, and so I appreciate it. I guess I just wanted to ask a clarifying question about the FY20 ADM versus the FY21 40th day. When would we get that money, I guess, and like when would the submission take place for that choice?
Madam President, esteemed board members, Dr. DeBlue, members of cabinet, Member White. With regards to the AZ Care application, from what we were told is that the application would actually be provided to districts this week. And with that being said, we have the ability to apply for the AZ Cares funds and make that selection because we do have to do the either or, whether it's 98% or going with the fiscal year 21 ADM. Of course, in discussions with Dr. DeBlue and cabinet, we are looking at which option will be the best option financially for our district.
mhm.
And so I will be working closely with Ed Services. I haven't heard that it has come out. I don't know if Dr. Cruz has seen anything yet, but at this moment in time, they did state it would be out this week. And I know that we are at the beginning of the week, but at this moment, it has not come out as of yet.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Fembres, for the Governor's Emergency Fund or the Coronavirus Fund, charter schools are allowed to apply for those monies too, correct?
Madam President, that is correct. They are entitled to apply for it.
Okay, then I have a follow-up to that. I have heard that charter schools also can apply for small business loans. Is that correct?
From my understanding, from what I have heard and what I have read, that is true. From
And
what I have read.
will they have to pay that back or it's a gift? And that, I don't know how that all does for the small business loans.
Madam President, I do not have full knowledge in regards to the exact requirements. I just know that, what I have heard is the fact that they do have the ability to apply for those loans and that they are forgivable. But of course, I have not done my full due diligence in regards to the full accuracy of that. But that is, of course, what I have heard.
Okay, but yeah, public schools will not have access to that, correct?
Madam President, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the budget. Carrie, roll call.
Martin Cazada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Again, Ms. Fembres, thank you very much for the budget presentation. We appreciate it. Are there any items anyone would like to see added to a future board agenda?
I have one, Madam President.
Sure.
And I don't know how into the future. It's going to have to be into the future at some point, just because I don't feel like the data is going to mean much. But I'd really like to see an update on PBIS. I know that's something that is ongoing with PD and training and really ramping up. But I know that having distance in place, I know that there are SEL supports and things like that. But at some point in the future, just hearing a little bit about how PBIS is going and how that's progressing. And I think Ms. Christopher mentioned earlier that, a task force might be getting together for some data. So that might be something to look at.
Okay, definitely. Any other items? No, the next board meeting, again, it'll be on Zoom, will be July 21st. And can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board
Sorry,
meeting?
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam President, members of the board, members of the community. I failed to announce the new administrative secretary to the principal at Copper King, Tamara Clark. Welcome to our district, Tamara. We look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Welcome. So can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. White seconded. Carrie, roll call.
Martin Quezada,
Yes.
Jose Arenas,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Jet White,
Yes.
Susan Zarin.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Again, the next meeting will be July 21st. I hope you all stay safe. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.
Good night. Bye-bye.